What if I told you that the answers to our modern financial crises, from speculative bubbles to crippling inequality, were laid out almost 1,000 years ago? Not by a modern economist, but by a medieval Islamic philosopher who saw money not just as a tool, but as a moral system. This is the story of how ancient wisdom explains our current economic chaos. Imagine the world in the 11th century. While Europe was fragmented and struggling through its dark ages, another part of the world was experiencing a golden age. The Islamic world, stretching from Spain to Persia, was a hub of innovation, science, and booming commerce. Cities like Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba were vibrant centers of trade, where merchants exchanged goods from across the known world. This was an era of unprecedented wealth, a globalized economy powered by the dinar and the dirham. But with great wealth came great problems. As markets expanded and fortunes were made overnight, new social tensions began to appear. Inequality grew stark, with a super-rich elite living in luxury while many struggled. Speculators gambled on commodities, creating artificial price swings. Rulers, hungry for more power, began to manipulate their own currency, secretly debasing coins to fund their ambitions. It was in this glittering, yet fragile world that one of the greatest minds of his time, Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali, began to ask some deeply uncomfortable questions. Al-Ghazali was more than just a scholar. He was a polymath. A theologian, a jurist, a mystic, and a philosopher, he was one of the most influential thinkers in Islamic history, but he was also a keen observer of human nature and society. He looked at the bustling markets, the growing palaces, and the anxious faces of the common people, and he realized something profound. Societies were getting rich much faster than they were getting wise. He saw that the new, complex economy was creating moral and spiritual crises that no one was addressing. He started by analyzing the very nature of money. To Al-Ghazali, money was a divine gift, a tool created to solve a fundamental human problem: how to fairly exchange different things. Before money, you had barter. If a shoemaker wanted grain, he had to find a farmer who just so happened to need shoes. It was inefficient and often unfair. Money, Al-Ghazali argued, was designed to be a neutral, objective measure of value. It was a facilitator of justice in the marketplace. He used a powerful metaphor. Money is like a mirror. A mirror doesn't have any beauty or ugliness of its own. It simply reflects the face you put in front of it. Similarly, money has no intrinsic value. Its only purpose is to reflect the value of goods and services. A gold coin is not valuable because it's gold. It's valuable because it represents a certain amount of wheat or labor or a piece of cloth. The moment people forget this and start loving the money itself, the system begins to break. This led to one of his most radical ideas. When people start to desire money for its own sake, they begin to hoard it. Al-Ghazali saw hoarded wealth as dead money. He argued that money is like the blood in a body. It must constantly circulate to keep the economy alive and healthy. When the rich hoard their coins, they are effectively starving the economic body. They are taking the medium of exchange out of circulation, preventing farmers, artisans, and merchants from trading with one another. This, he warned, leads to stagnation, poverty, and social unrest. He also had harsh words for speculation, which he saw as a form of gambling that destroyed the true purpose of markets. A market, for Al-Ghazali, should be a place where real goods are exchanged to meet real human needs. Speculators, however, don't care about the goods themselves. They buy and sell not to use the product, but to profit from price fluctuations they often help create. This introduces instability and deception into the system. It turns a place of cooperation into a battleground of greed, where trust, the very foundation of commerce, is eroded. Al-Ghazali reserved his most severe condemnation for currency debasement. In his time, rulers would secretly reduce the amount of gold or silver in their coins, mixing in cheaper metals, while forcing people to accept them at their old face value. Al-Ghazali called this what it was: theft. He said it was a betrayal of the public trust and a grave injustice. It was a hidden tax that fell heaviest on the poor, who saw the purchasing power of their savings evaporate. He warned that this act of state corruption would inevitably lead to economic collapse, as people would lose all faith in the currency and the rulers who issued it. At the heart of all these economic ideas was a powerful moral framework. Al-Ghazali believed that wealth comes with immense responsibility. Owning more than you need, he argued, is not a sign of success, but a test of character. An economy can't function on self-interest alone. It requires a bedrock of ethics: honesty, fairness, compassion, and trust. He argued that incentives are what shape human behavior. If a system rewards greed, hoarding, and deception, then that is what you will get. To fix the economy, you must first fix the incentives. You must build a system that rewards ethical behavior. Does any of this sound familiar? Let's jump forward 900 years to our own time. Look at the 2008 financial crisis. What was it at its core? Speculators trading complex financial instruments they didn't even understand. instruments that were supposed to represent real value, like mortgages, but had become detached from reality. It was a system built on a mountain of debt and false promises, where trust ultimately collapsed. It's a direct echo of Al-Ghazali's warnings against speculation and detaching money from real value. Think about wealth inequality today, where a tiny fraction of the population holds a vast percentage of the world's wealth. Much of this wealth isn't circulating in the real economy. It's hoarded in stocks, offshore accounts, and non-productive assets. Al-Ghazali would call this dead money, a massive hemorrhage of lifeblood from the global economic body, starving small businesses and working families. His critique of hoarding is more relevant now than ever. Consider the phenomenon of inflation and quantitative easing. When central banks print massive amounts of new money, what is happening to the value of the money already in your pocket? Its purchasing power decreases. While the mechanism is more complex than shaving metal off a coin, the effect is similar to the currency debasement Al-Ghazali condemned. It is a transfer of wealth that often benefits the asset-rich at the expense of savers and wage earners, eroding trust in the financial system itself. Al-Ghazali saw that societies don't collapse because of poverty. They collapse because of corruption and moral decay. When people lose faith in their institutions, their governments, their banks, their currency, the social contract breaks down. We see this today in the widespread distrust toward financial elites and political leaders. This isn't just a political problem. As Al-Ghazali understood, it is an economic crisis waiting to happen because no economy can survive without a baseline of trust. So, what is the ultimate lesson from this 11th century sage? It's that the economy is not a machine. It is a human ecosystem, and like any ecosystem, it can be poisoned. The poison is the belief that money is an end in itself, detached from morality, responsibility, and real-world value. When we worship the mirror instead of what it reflects, the entire system is designed to shatter. Al-Ghazali's ideas are not just a historical curiosity, they are a diagnostic tool. They provide a blueprint for understanding why our financial systems feel so fragile and unfair. He teaches us that economic health and moral health are inseparable. You cannot have a stable, prosperous society built on a foundation of greed, deception, and inequality. The booms and busts, the crises and crashes, they aren't technical glitches. They are symptoms of a deeper moral sickness. By understanding this history, we can better protect ourselves. We can learn to see the warning signs that Al-Ghazali identified a millennium ago: the rise of pure speculation, the hoarding of wealth, the erosion of trust, and the manipulation of money. We can start asking the same questions he did. What is the true purpose of our economy? And who does it truly serve? The answers to building a more resilient and just financial future might not be found in the latest economic theories, but in the timeless wisdom of a philosopher who saw the writing on the wall 9 centuries ago. Thank you for watching. If you found this perspective valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. What do you think? Are Al-Ghazali's ideas the key to understanding our modern world? Let me know in the comments below.